All right, Tuesday Bible study, or the following, if you're just following the playlist. We are in 2 Timothy chapter 2. We'll move to chapter 3 in Daniel 11. We're going to start reading that one out of the New Living. I do have it color-coded, King of the North, King of the South. I tried to do each pronoun best I could. It's impossible to follow. It's impossible to know exactly what all this is talking about, but towards the end, you do get to the end times. But you just don't know if this King of the North, King of the South is the Antichrist the whole time. And this is about World War III in some fascinating way, and cryptic way, or if it's sort of all of the times of mystery Babylonian kings that culminates with the seventh king, the Antichrist. So, let God be true and every man a liar. I will certainly not sit here and tell you that I know what it's about. I'm certainly not dogmatic until you do get to the abomination of desolation. We know that is the Antichrist. That's the only thing I'm dogmatic about. But Timothy, 2 Timothy chapter 2, moving over to 3, in a wealthy home, some utensils are made of gold and silver, and some are made of wood and clay. The expensive utensils are used for special occasions, and the cheap ones are for everyday use. If you keep yourself pure, you will be a special utensil for honorable use. Your life will be clean, and you will be ready for the master to use you for every good work. Now that kind of goes back to what he was saying. I believe that was 1 Timothy, where he covered being a good deacon in a church or so forth. It's not talking about today's churches, today's deacons. Because every building you walk into, if they're not celebrating Christmas, which 99% are, but they are professing free will. So I profess you can't go into a building today and get the overall truth. If they do not give you man's free will, which some Calvinistic type churches, which again, that's a man-made religion, does speak against free will, which is great. Do they celebrate Christmas? I don't know. Calvinism and Christmas. Christmas and Calvinism, but there is more than that. The reason we should associate Christmas and Calvinism is that Jesus himself does. Oh, really? Well, that's very interesting. Do Calvinists believe in Christmas? Third, the Calvinists in Switzerland banned all Christian holy days not mentioned in Scripture. Well, that's very good. The approach meant that the Sabbath was acceptable. Now, we no longer keep the Sabbath whatsoever, unless you're just doing it. Do not do it to have anything to do with salvation. That's all I can tell you. A Merry Calvinist Christmas, because they don't believe it is a Christian festival, and they celebrate their freedom not to celebrate something that God does not require them to. Okay. What could be more broadly evangelical than Christmas? It's time when all celebrating Christians agree on what the holiday means, and even many non-Christians pretend to believe, or at least to affirm that something good happened on the night Christ was born. Christmas would hardly seem so. Jesus himself does. Liar. In John 6, Jesus gives clear reason for the incarnation. And the incarnation is what we celebrate when we celebrate Christmas. He says this, "For I have come down from heaven, not to do my own will, but he has sent me." That broad statement of Jesus' obedience takes further shape. Really? That has something to do with Christmas? This is my Father's will. It's one of the most famous verses, 639. I use it all the time. No one can come to the Father. No one can come to me unless the Father draws him. Use it all the time. So I told you nobody comes to me unless it is granted him by the Father. 665. I use it all the time. None of that has anything to do with Christmas. In other words, when Jesus reflects on his coming to earth, good grief. I don't know if this is a Calvinism website though, but I do not believe in everything in Calvinism. I don't know what Calvinism is. People try to associate me with Calvinism and man's free will.
According to Wikipedia, John Calvin ascribed free will to all people in the sense that they act voluntarily and not by compulsion. He elaborated his position by allowing that man has choice and that it is self-determined and that his actions stem from his own voluntary choosing.
So Calvinists believe in free will? That's why I'm not a Calvinist. Did John Calvin believe in free will? Because people do try to hoodwink me into that. Do humans have free will? Calvin says no. Okay. I'm not a Calvinist regardless, but I must admit sometimes it's hard to stay quiet for a second. Anyway, doesn't Calvin's argument imply that man is coerced? Not at all. Calvin implies man sins willingly. Yes, it is out of necessity, but not out of compulsion. Such a distinction is one of Calvin's chief points. Oh boy. This is one man talking now. They start sounding like they're giving their own opinion. I just go by Bible verse, Bible verse, Bible verse, Bible verse, Bible verse, Bible verse. That's how I teach. God's ordained the end from the beginning. So what do you think man does freely? Nothing. Like zero. Willful captivity. Does this mean that Calvin does affirm free will if by freedom one means, as what's his name argues, that man's will is in no way determined, but that man has the self-power to will good or evil toward good grief. So anyway, you get the idea. And I don't have a religion. I would like to think that I'm just a member of the way, the truth. That's all. We just go around and tell the truth. So, not exactly why y'all got me on that, but I blame y'all. And I think I need to redirect y'all and get us back on track. Run from anything that stimulates youthful lust. Instead, pursue righteous living. We were talking about how, talking about the deacons in the church. That's what it was in today's churches. And you can't go into any church and get the truth. And you just can't. So what it really was talking about is just sheep and how you should live your life. And that's what he's getting back to again. So 1st and 2nd Timothy are very much the same. Pursue righteous living, faithfulness, love, and peace, with sheep, not any hippie stuff. Enjoy the companionship of those who call on the Lord with pure hearts. Yes. Sheep need to commune with sheep. Again, I say, don't get involved in foolish, ignorant arguments. Again, already covered. Am I sure that we haven't already taught this? I've done that before. We don't properly turn the page. 2 Timothy 1, 2 Timothy 1, 2 Timothy 1, 1 Timothy, 2 Timothy 2, 8, 19, and this is 20. Okay, so he really is just restating the same things over and over. Don't get involved in foolish. I believe it was from 1 Timothy. Don't get involved in foolish, ignorant arguments. What's this? I'm going to copy and paste this and put 1 Timothy. And just see. Unfortunately, since I copied and pasted it verbatim, do not get in foolish arguments, 1 Timothy. 1 Timothy 6:20, 1 Timothy 4:7-10. Don't waste time arguing over foolish ideas and silly myths and legends. So again, now that's a weak translation. Let's get the translation of that. It's TLB, which, good grief. What in the world? Let's at least keep it consistent NLT, if we may, just so we can see how consistent it is with the other. Don't waste time arguing over godless ideas and old wives' tales. Instead, train yourself to be godly. And then we also saw, I believe it was 6:20. Guard against what God entrusted in you. Avoid godless, foolish discussions with those who oppose you with their so-called knowledge. So twice it's stated, and here it is again. Again, I say. Well, he does say again, I say, doesn't he? So he's really driving home this point, isn't he? Don't get involved in foolish, ignorant arguments that only start fights. 2 Timothy 2:20-23. A servant of the Lord must not quarrel, but must be kind to everyone. Now, let's get into those deadly sins. Not the 7 deadly sins. That's not biblical. Galatians 5:19-21. See where it says at the very end of this list of sins, that which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom. In other words, if you never are repented of this by the Lord, if he never calls you out of this, because it is a calling, then you're not a sheep. You won't inherit the kingdom. Adultery, fornication, uncleanliness, lasciviousness. Then you get into idolatry and witchcraft. But now you get into the argument stuff. Hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife. So he's telling you, quit arguing, fussing, and fighting. Don't do it. Sheep don't do that. Remember, after the second admonition of a heretic, leave him alone. I want to say that's Titus 3:11, but I have no idea. Titus. All right, so we're back on. Okay. Because it was down. So I guess it just put us on pause. That's fantastic. I don't know when it stopped, but we were going over Galatians 5:19-21. You don't argue, fuss, and fight. And if we go to Titus 3:11, King James Version, Bible Gateway. It's 3:10. Titus 3:10, not Titus 3:11. Oh boy, this internet, y'all. I just don't know what to say. The AI is really messing with us, which means we might be close to the Trump moment. Or they just could be psyoping us. But here it goes again. So it says it's recording. So, okay, I guess we're back on. A man that is a heretic after the second admonition, reject. So you're not supposed to sit around and fuss and fight with people. A servant of the Lord must not quarrel, must be kind to everyone, and teach and be patient with difficult people. Gently instruct those who oppose the truth. Perhaps God will change those people's hearts and they will learn the truth. Yeah, after the second admonition, leave them alone. You planted the seed, but you do not want to fuss and fight. If they're not fussing and fighting, they're just curious and they're counterpointing you, but they're doing it. Just trust your spirit. Just trust your gut. I think women would have less patience. And I think women have the ability to get out quicker than men, who tend to be a little more stubborn, prideful, and egotistical, would stay more in a back and forth. But if it's respectful and it's curious, then feed the potential sheep. But again, you've planted the seed. Or like I do with certain people that have never been rude to me. They've never told me to stop. They've never argued with me, but they're not living it. Just every time I'm around them, I'll pop off with something and they don't hate it. So just planting those seeds, for they have been held captive by him to do whatever he wants. The dangers of the last days. You should know this, Timothy, that in the last days, there'll be very difficult times, for the people will love only themselves. This is always fun to read in the last days, a perilous time shall come. That's where we're at right now. For men shall be lovers of their own selves. We know what that is. The prideful world with the pride flag. Covetous, boasters, proud. Well, they call it pride, don't they? Blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, comma, end of Bible study. Love you very much. Ask questions anytime. That's what I'm here for.